Welcome to Spot the Narcissist. Mental health issues are on the rise worldwide, which is why we're doubling down on creating more content. Today, let's talk about narcissistic abuse and complex post-traumatic stress disorder, C-PTSD. Ever heard of it? It's when someone goes through or sees something traumatic like a narcissistic abuse. If you are thinking you or someone you know has C-PTSD and you want to know for sure, this video is for you. Here are 5 weird signs. It might be C-PTSD. Sign number 1. You notice feelings of trauma coming up more frequently. You keep feeling stressed about past traumas, even long after they happened. Sometimes, after a traumatic event, the stress can linger for a while and then fade away. This is common with traditional PTSD. However, with C-PTSD, those feelings of anxiety and trauma tend to stick around and pop up more often. It's like the memories of the event keep haunting you, making you feel nervous, scared, or anxious even long after it's happened. This can happen because the trauma was so severe, or because it happened repeatedly over time. For instance, picture a situation where you were subjected to narcissistic abuse some years ago. Typically, following such traumatic experiences, you might initially feel shaken or unsettled, but as time passes, these feelings tend to diminish. However, if you're grappling with C-PTSD due to the abuse, you might find yourself experiencing heightened anxiety whenever you encounter situations reminiscent of the abuse, even years later. You could constantly fret about encountering another abusive situation, and the underlying fear and stress persistently linger. This enduring sense of unease and tension, long after the abuse occurred, could be indicative of C-PTSD rather than conventional PTSD. Sign number 2. You have difficulty controlling your emotions. Your emotions are all over the place, and you struggle to control them. Dealing with intense emotions can be challenging, especially when they stem from past traumas. With traditional PTSD, the emotional effects are usually short-lived and might not be as intense. However, with C-PTSD, which involves prolonged or repeated trauma, the emotional impact can be much more severe and last longer. This means you might have trouble controlling your feelings, and they could come bursting out unexpectedly. For example, let's imagine you've been a victim of narcissistic abuse in the past. Maybe you've experienced constant manipulation, gaslighting, or emotional torment from a narcissistic individual. Now, if someone suggests engaging in an activity that reminds you of those painful experiences, instead of calmly declining or explaining your discomfort, you might find yourself reacting with intense frustration or even breaking down into tears uncontrollably. It's like the lingering emotional scars from the abuse spill over into your everyday life, making it challenging to manage your responses in a healthy and constructive manner. Sign number 3. You experience dissociation. What is dissociation? Dissociation is a mental process where a person disconnects from their thoughts, feelings, memories, or sense of identity. Dissociative disorders include dissociative amnesia, depersonalization disorder, and dissociative identity disorder. Ever spaced out suddenly? That's dissociation, a coping mechanism when emotions get overwhelming. Dissociation is like mentally checking out when things get too overwhelming. It's when you feel disconnected from your thoughts, surroundings, or even your own emotions. This is a common way for the brain to cope with intense feelings, especially in cases of prolonged or repeated trauma like C-PTSD. You might find yourself zoning out or feeling like you're not really present at the moment. Picture yourself chatting with friends about the experiences you endured during narcissistic abuse. Suddenly, as you recount the painful memories, you begin to feel a surge of fear and anxiety overwhelming you. Rather than confronting these distressing emotions directly, you might experience a momentary mental checkout, where you feel disconnected from the conversation and from yourself. This dissociation serves as a coping mechanism to shield you from the immediate pain, but it also hinders your ability to fully engage in life and confront the deeper wounds inflicted by narcissistic abuse. Sign number 4. You feel physical symptoms when reminded of your trauma. Thinking about past trauma makes you physically sick, like feeling nauseous or dizzy. Our brains are powerful and they can hold on to memories of past trauma in surprising ways. Sometimes, just thinking about or talking about a traumatic event can trigger physical reactions like nausea, dizziness, or stomach pain. This is especially common with C-PTSD because the trauma is so deeply ingrained in your mind and body. For example, imagine you're in therapy discussing your experiences with narcissistic abuse. Even though you're in a safe environment and the abusive incidents occurred in the past, simply talking about them can trigger intense physical reactions. Your heart may race, your stomach may churn with anxiety, and you might even feel dizzy or nauseous. These physical symptoms are your body's response to the trauma inflicted by the narcissistic abuse, even though the abuse isn't occurring in the present moment. Sign number 5. You avoid trauma triggers at all costs. If you find yourself going to great lengths to avoid anything that triggers memories of your trauma, such as steering clear of certain places or situations that remind you of your past experiences with narcissistic abuse, you might be dealing with C-PTSD. It's natural to want to avoid reminders of traumatic events, but with C-PTSD, this avoidance can become extreme. You might go to great lengths to avoid anything that brings back memories of the abusive relationship, even if it disrupts your daily life or causes you to miss out on opportunities. This avoidance behavior is a clear indication that the trauma still deeply affects you. For instance, let's say you were in a relationship with a narcissistic partner who made you feel constantly belittled and controlled. As a result, you may develop a fear of intimate relationships and avoid getting close to others, preferring to stay isolated to protect yourself from further harm. This avoidance can leave you feeling trapped in a cycle of fear and unable to move past the trauma of the abusive relationship. Did any of this resonate with you? If so, it's essential to reach out to a mental health pro. And if you found this helpful, share it with others who might need it. Take care, and thanks for watching.